So we're just going to recap on how we can use Photoshop to convert a black and white image into color. So we'll open up either Safari or Chrome and you'll just search black and white image and choose anyone. So let's just say, let's go this cat here. Once we do this, you'll be tempted to click and drag that into Photoshop, but that's not going to work. What you need to do is click on the button that says View Image, and it should open up into a large image. If it doesn't, choose another image from here. So now that you've got this image on its own tab, click and drag this and hover over the Photoshop icon and it will open up. Now if it doesn't open up, what you'll need to do is go back to Safari or Chrome. You'll need to right click and save the image to the downloads. Once it goes into your downloads, open up the downloads folder in Finder and then click and drag that into Photoshop. Okay, so now that we've got this in Photoshop, we've got to make sure that it says RGB in that tab there. If it doesn't say RGB, what you'll need to do is go to the image menu, mode, and if it's on something else, it will typically be on something that says gray. So you want to make sure that it's on RGB. So you go to the image menu, mode, and RGB. It's worth noting that if your interface does not look like this and you've got tabs pulled out all over the place and your interface is a bit screwed up like this, that's fine. You can always go Window, Workspace, and Essentials. So Workspace, and then you'll want to go Reset Essentials, and it'll reset it to however you want. So now that we've got our image here and it is in RGB, you want to go to your Layers menu. Now I know where my Layers palette is, but you guys might not know. And if your interface looked something like, if it was all collapsed and you don't know where it is, and in fact even if it was like this and you didn't know that this was the layers icon, you go to your window menu, because this is where you find all your palettes on the right hand side. If you then just click the word that says layers, it will actually open up that for you. Alright, so what you want to do is go to create a new layer, and now you've got two layers above. And what you want to do then is go to your brush tool, keyboard shortcut is B, and then click once on the color that's on the left hand side, and let's just choose something. For argument's sake, let's just go with that cyan color. Click OK. I can zoom in by going Command plus, and let's say I just start painting all over or colorizing everywhere. Nothing's going to change until I go to this layer blending mode, change normal, and I'm just going to cycle through a couple of these things. And knowing that each time that I do this, it's actually changing the way that it appears in here. So have a play around with whatever's happening in there. If I want to do something new, let's say I want to color the cat's eyes, I want to create a new layer, and let's say I'll go with the color green and just color this. Now I'm using a tablet at home and it goes from small to big, right? So that's small and then I can go big. You guys will just be using a mouse and it will be whatever size is already set here. So if it's 30 pixels, it'll only ever be 30 pixels. Now to increase this, in the other lesson we discovered that we can click on this drop down and we can change the size. So that's bigger, and we can then decrease this. And what we can do as well is we can actually change the hardness. So 0% hardness makes it really soft. Now I've got a different mode on mine. I'll just take off noise and smoothing. Go back to here. So let's just delete all these layers so I can show you again. So this is actually quite soft, and we can then change hardness to be quite focused in, think of yeah, like a laser kind of focus. That's what it's doing. But if we want to go and try and make things blended a bit better, you don't want to go 100%. You might, go for a 95 or something like that, or even less. Now, remember our keyboard shortcuts. To make your brush size go smaller or make it go larger, your keyboard shortcut is that left bracket, the square one, equals smaller, and the bracket that goes to the other side equals larger. Now, if you want something that is quite soft, you'll need to press, if you want something quite soft, you'll need to press Shift as well as that bracket. Then if you want something quite focused, you'll need to press Shift plus the other bracket there. Okay, so just to recap what we're doing, let's close this file down. Final recap, we're going into Safari, getting a black and white image, that's what you're typing. Click on the image that you want. Make sure you click on View Image. It will open itself up in a new tab. Then you can either click and drag that into Photoshop. If that doesn't work, you'll need to right click and save that image to the downloads. And once it's in the downloads, then you can click and drag that into Photoshop, and that should work. From there, you'll need to go to the window menu and go to your layers, unless you already know where it is. You need to go to a new layer, select a color that you want. So for this, let's say we want to go for a lovely kind of metallic kind of color, well, brassy color for the clock face. Zooming in is Command plus, zooming out is Command minus. I want to zoom in. I'm making my brush size just a little bit bigger, and I want to change the hardness, and then I'm going to change that on the fly. And then I'm just going everywhere, all over here, painting it, then going to normal, and let's say I go to multiply or I go to color burn. Color burn's kind of cool, has that kind of cool effect, and I can actually adjust the opacity here, and it does something else as well. Now, I go over here and I don't like that. What do? No need for panic. I just go to my eraser tool, and it's like the brush, so I can actually increase the brush size and decrease it, and then everywhere I click and drag, you see how it's quite focused in on that area. I'm just going to soften that a little bit, and now that edge is now quite soft. I can then go back to my brush, keyboard shortcut B, and keep painting. And I actually don't mind if I go over the edges there, because I know that I've got my eraser tool, which I can then always erase things out. So again, let's just give that a bit of a go to my eraser, E on the keyboard, and I can just erase that there and keep going. Now, a couple of you want to know how you can undo. Your undo is here, Command Z, but if you need a step backwards, you'll need to press Command Option Z. So if I just go undo right now, and I try and do that again, it's actually just going to redo everything, or undo and then redo. If I want to step back in history, I need to go Command Option Z, and it goes back to everything that I've done. If I press Command Z now, it's actually just going to go back to the beginning. It's good to work with layers, so add another layer. I'm going to swap that color around, and I'm just going to go with a light glassy kind of color. Paint that. Oh, I'm on the eraser. I'm just going to paint that over here. Looks like nothing's changed, but if I just go, say, multiply or go darken really doesn't do much. If I go color, maybe that's there. And because this layer is over the top, if I go over that area, it's actually going to color my underneath layers, so you've got to be wary of that. That's okay, because we can always go a little bit of color over here. And then we can adjust the opacity anyway. So we knock that back and my color kind of comes back. So it's quite a powerful tool. Once you're done, print the photo out. Be really good to see a bit of a before and after. You can turn your layers off and on by clicking on the eye and then clicking that back on just to see what it looked like before. Now, Zach in the other class was saying, how do I remember my colors? This is a good question. I would say create a new layer. We can double click on the word and I'm going to say color, and every color that I want to use, I'm just going to use that color there. So swap that color around, and because we've only got a maximum of 2 colors, let's say I wanted to use like a brown color over there, another kind of brown. I'm now going to put that color there, and then I can create a new layer to have pretend brown as this gravel or whatever kind of thing over there. If I turn that to multiply, maybe I just do color. Right, pretend that's what I want. Now, if I want to go back to this kind of color, I need to go to this layer. Well, I don't need to go to this layer, but more than that, I can go to my eyedropper tool, and if I click on this, look at this color over here. Once I click that, it actually changes that color, and when I go to my brush, it is now that brassy kind of color. Doesn't look brassy because I've already changed it to color burn, but once I go over an actual area, I can see that it is. Let's give it a go by changing the color on the fly. I can choose that, go back to my coin, and if I turn the blue, it changes it there. So having this color layer that I can turn off in the end is actually a really good way to be able to keep the colors and pick them again. Okay, keep exploring, keep playing around. Apologies that I'm not here today. I think you'll get some really good experience, however, in using Photoshop today.